Moving on another topic from Dryden's An Essay of Dramatic Poesy, we are discussing Dryden's views on three unities. What are the views of Dryden on three unities that were discussed in criticism of literature previously? Dryden stands out prominently as a champion of liberal classicism in an age steeped in the grammar of criticism derived from Boileau and other French critics. In an age of pseudo-classic criticism, with its precise rules and definitions, Dryden had the boldness to defend the claims of genius to write according to its own convictions without regard for the prescriptions and rules which had been laid down for good writing. He cleared the ground for himself by brushing away all the arbitrary bans upon freedom of composition and freedom of judgment. He refused to be cowed down by the French playwrights and critics. Changing tastes and interests helped to make him responsive to different kinds of literary skill and artistic conventions, thus giving him that primary qualification of the good practical critic, the ability to read the work under consideration with full and sympathetic understanding. It is his own artistic and practical sense which determines his discussion of the unities and not any false sense of national superiority. And what is the violation of the three unities and Dryden's defense? Dryden's liberalism, his free critical disposition is best seen in his justification of the violation of the three unities of time, place, and action on the part of the English dramatist and in his defense of the English tragicomedies. Dryden does not adhere to three unities. He seeks liberalism in following of the unities of time, place, and action. As regards the unities, his view is that first, the English violation of the unities lent greater copiousness and variety to the English plays. The unities have a narrowing and cramping effect on the French plays, and they are often betrayed into absurdities from which the English plays are free. So, first ground on which he denies to follow three unities, that violation of unities gives freedom and variety to the English plays. Second, the English disregard of the unities enable them to present a more just and lively picture of human nature. The French plays may be more regular, but they are not so lively. In other words, their representation is not so pleasant and delightful as that of the English. And he gives third reason for violation of unities and says that Shakespeare's plays are more true to nature and more delightful than any French play. Even he has not observed the unities. Next, he presents that the English, when they do observe the rules, as Ben Jonson has done in The Silent Woman, so greater skill and art than the French, The Silent Woman is as regular as any French play, and it is entirely free from the absurdities of the latter. It all depends upon the genius or skill of the writer. In these lines, he proves English playwrights better than French playwrights. There is no harm in introducing by consonant or subplots, for they impart variety, richness, and copiousness to the play. As Lycidius condemns English drama on the basis of that they introduce subplots, but Dryden says that subplots provides variety, richness, and copiousness to the English plays. In this way, the writer can present a more just picture than the French, with their narrow and cramped place, and to the view that the observance of the unities is justified on the ground that their violation results in improbability, that it places too great a strain on the imagination of the spectators, and that credibility is stretched too far. He replies that it is all a question of dramatic illusion. What is dramatic illusion? At one place, Dryden asks, why should he imagine the soul of man more heavy than his sense? The sentence, one of critics says, is worthy to stand beside Dr. Johnson's letter. He that imagines this may ignore more. Dr. Johnson says the last word on the problem of dramatic illusion when he writes that the spectators are always in their senses and they know full well that the stage is a stage and the play is a play. They credit the drama with all the credit due to a drama. It is credited whenever it moves as a just picture of a real, original, as represents to the auditor what he would himself feel if he were to do or suffer what is there feigned to be suffered or to be done. The reflection that strikes the heart is not that the evils before us are real evils, but that they are evils to which we ourselves may be exposed. If there be any fallacy, it is not that we fancy the players to be unhappy, but that we rather lament the possibility than suppose the presence of misery. As a mother weeps over her baby, when she imagines that death may take it away from her, the delight of tragedy proceeds from our consciousness of fiction. If we thought murder and treasons real, they would please no more. Imitation produce pain or pleasure, not because they are mistaken for realities, but because they bring realities to mind. In this respect, Dryden anticipates Johnson, though he does not say all this clearly and elaborately. But this view is implied in the sentence quoted above that we have discussed above. In summing up Dryden's view, we can see these things. In short, Dryden's view of the unities amounts to this. The rules of Aristotle are not absolute. There is always an appeal open from rules to nature. If the ends of drama are better fulfilled by a violation of the unities, then there is no harm in violating them. Shakespeare has produced more just and lively plays, even though he has utterly disregarded the unities. Comparison with Sydney. Here, Dryden's views were compared with Sydney's. It would be interesting to compare the views of Dryden with those of Sir Philip Sidney in his Apology for Poetry, and also with those of Dr. Johnson as expressed in his preface to Shakespeare. So, three unities of plays are discussed at many places in criticism. That here we can compare these views expressed on the three unities of time, place, and action. We compare these unities uh, between different places, Dryden's views, Sir Philip Sidney's views, and Dr. Johnson's views. The unities of time and place were first formulated in Italy and France about the middle of the century. The first mention of the unities in England is to be found more than a dozen years later in the Defense of Poesy, and it cannot be doubted that Sidney derived them directly from the Italian critic Castelvetro. Sidney, in discussing the tragedy of Carboduc, finds it faulty in time and place, the two necessary companions of all corporeal actions, for where the stage should always represent but one place, and the uttermost time presupposed in it should be both by Aristotle's precept and common reason. But one day there, that is in Gorboduc, A tragedy is both many days and many places in artistically imagined. He also objects to the absurdities of the English stage, where on one side Africa and on the other Asia may be represented, and wherein an hour a youth may grow from boyhood to old age. How absurd this is! Common sense, art, and ancient examples ought to teach the English playwright. And at this day, says Sydney, even the ordinary player in Italy will not add in it, if indeed it be objected that one or two of the comedies of Plautus and Terence do not observe the unity of time. Let's not follow them when they err, but when they are right, it is no excuse for us to do wrong, because Plautus on one occasion has done likewise. The Sydney is all for a rigid observation of the three unities, and he condemns English dramas for its violation of the unities. However, it should be remembered that Sidney's defense of poetry was written prior to the great Shakespearean drama. It is just possible he would have revised his judgment had he been familiar with the great romantic plays of Shakespeare. Now, Dryden's views were compared with Dr. Johnson's view. Johnson's view on the three dramatic unities are more liberal and quite close to those of Dryden. He defends Shakespeare's violation of the unities on different grounds. Shakespeare has well maintained the unity of action. He is the poet of nature, and his plots have the complexity and variety of nature. There might be certain incidents which are superfluous, but his plots have a beginning, a middle, and an end. One event is logically connected with another, and the plot makes graduated advances towards the denouement. Shakespeare shows no regard for the unities of time and place, and in the opinion of Johnson, these unities have given more trouble to the poet than pleasure to the auditor. The observance of the unities of time and place is considered necessary in the interest of the credibility of the drama. It is said that fiction should be as near to reality as possible, but it is wrong to suppose that any dramatic performance is credited with reality. When a spectator can imagine the stage to be Alexandria and the actors to be Antony and Cleopatra, he can surely imagine much more. Drama is a delusion, and delusion has no limits. The spectators do not count the clock or look at the calendar, they are all in their sense. They know the stage is a stage, and the actors are actors. There is therefore no absurdity in showing different actions happening at different places. If they can imagine the stage to be Athens, they can also imagine it to be Sicily. The unity of time also has no validity. A drama imitates successive actions, and just as they may be represented at successive places, so also they may be represented at different periods, separated by several years. The only condition is that the events so represented should be connected with each other with nothing but time intervening between them. In contemplation, we easily connect the time of real actions and therefore willingly permit it to be contracted with when we only see their imitations. Just as the reader of a book does not demand any adherence to the unities, so also the spectators do not demand it. Drama moves us not because it is credited, but because it makes us feel that the evils which are represented may happen to ourselves. So, in conclusion, we can say both Dryden and Johnson agree that the unities are not essential to drama. Their violation often results in variety and instruction. Such violation is justified on the grounds of nearness to life and nature. Their views on dramatic illusion are quite similar, only there is much greater elaboration in Johnson than in Dryden.